One of the biggest lies in online business is this. Most founders think that businesses break because they can't get clients. That's not usually true. Most businesses actually break after they start growing, after they start getting clients. And I learned this really the hard way in my previous business. I remember having periods where sales were coming in consistently, or revenue was growing, everything looked successful from the outside. But internally, if you have a look, everything was just pure chaos. Clients messaging, not knowing what actually is happening. I sometimes received messages at midnight. Team was confused, delivery inconsistent, communication breaking, expectations unclear, pressure kept rising every single day. And I realized something important looking back now. Growth didn't expose success. Growth was exposing weak systems inside of my business. That's why fulfillment almost always breaks first. It's not sales, it's not marketing, but it's the actual fulfillment. Because sales create pressure, and your fulfillment observes that actual pressure. And most businesses are not structurally designed to observe scale, to actually scale. They are designed to survive small volumes or small spikes. That's a massive, massive difference. This is why so many founders get trapped and the first thing they think is more clients will solve the problem. Logically thinking, maybe it's correct. But then when you get actually more clients, what happens? The business becomes more heavier. You have more stress, you have more fires, you have more team problems, more complaints, more pressure. And eventually the founder becomes reactive, emotionally exhausted, operationally overwhelmed. And what looked like growth starts feeling like actual survival. So in this video, is really important because I think a lot of founders are suffering from this right now without realizing it. They think, I need more leads, I need more closes, I need more sales. No, a lot of you need better infrastructure inside of your business, because if fulfillment breaks, eventually your reputation breaks, retention breaks, trust breaks, team morals breaks, and your nerve system itself also starts breaking. And eventually the business starts collapsing from the actual inside. That is what this video is all about. Because in my first business, and I can put my hand up, I miserably failed because I was only focusing on the actual sales aspect of a business. But when actually sales start coming in, I realized, hey, hold on. Now looking back, I realized we are not even ready to take so many clients. We can't even fulfill 1 or 2 clients. We can't fulfill 3 clients. We can't fulfill 5 clients. And we have 10 clients currently sitting there waiting for results. And we have promised them the results. So now we need to go and we need to deliver results. And then when you kind of look and you are closing consistently more because you have more leads booked in the actual calendar, you suddenly start realizing, hey, hold on, this is not as easy as actually I thought. It's not the sales was the problem. It's not the leads that were the problem. It's the actual fulfillment, because people are paying, but then they are leaving the next day. Why? Because your fulfillment currently is the biggest bottleneck inside of your business. So in this video, I want to really walk you through what needs to happen, what is breaking, and how can you actually fix it. So why fulfillment actually breaks first, right? It usually breaks first because it carries operational pressure. Sales is really simple compared to delivery. First, once we really figure out the sales part, usually start getting in leads, we kind of have totally forget about fulfillment. Because when we have started our business, the first thing what we usually think about is, okay, how can we actually get more clients? How can we get more leads? And we don't really think so much about the actual execution. We don't think so much about the actual fulfillment. Sales is a promise, but fulfillment is the actual execution. So for my initial business, we had like a huge promise, a huge offer. And the problem wasn't the promise was the one that actually made the sales happen. But the problem was the actual execution. And execution is where complexity usually lives, okay? The moment business grows, complexity will always multiply. Think about this. It's like if you go to the gym and the more weight you add, the heavier the actual weight will get. So let's say you do a bench press and you start with 10 kilos. If I add 10 kilos more, it gets heavier. If I add 10 more, it gets heavier. If I add 10 more, it gets heavier. And so the question is to really understand what is the actual capacity. How much can you actually lift? Because usually what ends up happening, if you add too much weight without pre-training, before warming up, you can get an injury and you can really injure yourself, okay? So more clients mean more communication. It means more expectations, more moving parts, more variables, more emotional management, and more operational coordination. So this means you're adding more weight. Sales is like the extra weight you're adding on top of your actual business. And if your systems are really weak, the business starts leaking everywhere. So the real reason most businesses actually struggle, most businesses are built around the founder's effort, not actual systems. So what do I mean by this? I mean, if you look at any business, most businesses are run by the founder himself. If he has somebody, everything still goes through the founder. The founder does the sales, the founder does the onboarding, the founder still is involved in the fulfillment, the founder still has to do the tasks, he still records the content, he still does day-to-day communications with the clients as well. He still jumps on like daily checkups with the clients as well. So everything goes through the actual founder himself. So the founder is the main business, not an actual system. So that works at low volume, let's say low complexity and low client count. So let's say you get 5 clients a month. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. It's probably going to work out for you. You can maybe even stretch it to 10 clients, depending on what your offer is. But the moment you get kind of 10, 50 clients, from 10 to 50 clients in, and it keeps rising every single month, now the pressure really starts to add, right? But once scale hits, right, once you have more pressure, everything starts to break because the founder became the bottleneck, the manager, the firefighter, decision maker, the emotional regulator, and quality control as well. Because initially what happens is, it's like if a founder does absolutely everything in the business, it's like putting extra weight on your shoulders. Okay, and eventually you are down on your knees, it's too much pressure, you can't walk, the business doesn't move, right? And so this usually happens when you start to have more and more clients actually start coming into the business, okay? And eventually the founder becomes the operating system. That is one of the most dangerous business structures possible because humans do not scale infinitely, okay? What actually breaks inside fulfillment is this. There are usually 5 things that collapse first in any business. So the first one is the communication. This usually is the first leak. Clients don't know what is happening, timelines, expectations, next steps, and then anxiety increases. And anxious clients create pressure, not because they are bad people, because uncertainty creates emotional instability. Most founders underestimate how much fulfillment is actual psychological. So my first business, we had a huge offer, a huge promise. Clients were mostly signing up because there was a huge promise and we looked like we have everything under control. We know what we are doing. We look like we have a huge business. We just like are the pros, right? And so because we didn't have clear expectations, we didn't have clear timelines on when the KPIs has to be reviewed. We didn't have visibility. When I say visibility, the client didn't have the visibility. There was no dashboards. We were basically working off Slack and WhatsApp. And so what ended up happening is because there was no clear expectations, there was no visibility of the projects that being worked on, where are we currently sitting, how far are we from launching, nothing. The clients kept kind of forcing their way through with questions every single day. It's like, hey, I haven't got an update. Hey, you know what, I'm looking for an update on the project. How far are we from actually launching a system? Are we currently working? Because there was no visibility, there was no clear expectations, there was no clear communication, everything just was happening, okay? And because of that, pressure also increased because you have to understand when a client pays you 20K, or let's say 10K, all the way from 10 to 20K, they expect things to be done in a certain way. And so if somebody pays, and obviously you're working, but you don't let them know what is currently being worked on, how far are we from actually launching, what the system looks like, eventually they start to get their own assumptions. So they think, I just paid this guy 10, 15, 20K, and like nothing is being done. So am I being scammed currently? And because of that, they start to emotionally start to get involved with your business as well. So now they keep pressuring you. They're like looking for answers because you haven't given them any answers. And this happened to us. We gave a big promise, we signed them on, we onboarded them, and we said, hey, you know what, like we can do weekly updates. And on weekly updates, we would just give them like what was done. But during the week, there was no visibility. There was no visibility of what's currently being tested, what's being worked on, where are we, is the project in progress, are we currently reviewing things, are we reworking things, what is happening? And because of that key element, which is visibility, the clients felt like there's nothing being done. Sometimes, yes, on Friday we would send them a quick loom, things that have been done, but there would be so much unanswered questions, okay? And that's where anxiety, pressure increases. The second one is delivery consistency. So one client gets great experience because you give all your attention to that one client, and other client gets kind of average experience, and then you get also a client that gets like a bad experience, right? So you get like 3 type of experiences: great, like kind of average, okay, and then bad. The big question is why? Because nothing is standardized. So there's no SOPs, no system operational protocols, no QAs, right? And no process documentation. Everything depends on memory and actual effort. And that becomes fragile once you start to have more and more clients coming in. If you are dealing with 1 to 5 clients every single month, maybe that's working for you, and that's fine. But the moment you start to have more and more clients coming in, you can't just depend on your memory to remember everything. You can't depend on, oh, I need to message that person, I need to check in with him, I need to send him the update, I need to send the loom, I need to check on the email, and then you're also dealing with sales. You have so much things to do. That's why it's important that you move away from the effort, you move away from the memory, and you start placing systems inside the business. The third one was team confusion, right? This one destroys businesses actually quietly. When teams constantly start asking, what do I do? How should I handle this? Can you check this? Am I doing this right? Is there a problem? Hey, I had a client, he sent me this email, I don't know what to say to him because currently I'm doing this and then I have this to do. And there's so much confusion. And the confusion usually happens when there's not enough processes. You don't have actual decision-making process inside the business. You don't have processes for your team to make decisions. What happens if things escalate? What happens if they receive an XYZ email? How to make sure that things are moving. So there's none of that. And because there's none of that, the team gets confused because they didn't have the right process, they don't have the right systems, they don't have the right training. And so the first thing that comes to them is like, okay, so if I don't know, the best thing to do is to go to the actual founder. And so now, most of the times, you are using your time to kind of give feedback to your team, tell them what's working, what's not working. You're checking things, reviewing things, and improving things, right? So that means you don't have a decision systems. Most founders think they have people's problems, and that's not the case. Usually they have clarity problems. There's not enough systems. So most founders usually hire from a place of desperation because when they had a lot of problems inside of the business, they couldn't handle it. They're like, hey, I need somebody to actually help me. So they got somebody just to handle things for them, just to help them. But what they didn't focus on is like, how is this person going to be placed inside of my business? How are they actually going to be trained? And how they're going to be executed? And what are going to be the KPIs? Okay. The fourth one is capacity breaks, right? And this is a huge one. Most businesses never calculate true operational capacity. They just keep selling. And then eventually deadlines slip, quality drops, and response time slows, and stress rises. And this is a huge also for me. In the first business, we totally failed because we didn't know what we were doing. The one thing that we knew what we were doing is the sales part, because I've been in sales for over 13 years. And so because of that, me and my partner, we were just consistently selling. We were just selling, because we knew how to do it. That was the best part. But then when clients start coming in, we didn't realize, okay, how many clients can we actually take? Like, where is the line between having great results to clients, average and bad? Where is that line? Can we draw that line? And because we didn't have that, we just thought, okay, we're just going to take more and more and more clients. And we already felt that there's internal operational problems happening currently inside the business. The infrastructure is already breaking. We already have clients that are unhappy because of the deadlines have been passed. We haven't delivered the results. They already are saying, hey, can I get actual refund because we are over the guarantee, the timeline of the guarantee itself. And because of this, right, most founders usually only face the problems once they have already too many clients. Then they're like, oh, I couldn't handle so many clients. So you really need to understand and calculate what is the capacity. How many clients can you actually take? If you do have different models, maybe you have done for you and then you have done with you, then think about it. Okay, maybe for done for you, I could take 3 clients. For done with you, I could take 20 clients a month. without breaking the fulfillment. Or maybe it's even 10 clients, right? But you need to know your capacity, because if you don't know, eventually you will take clients and you will come to a point where everything starts breaking the business because there's so much pressure added, okay? So the fifth one is the founder breaks himself. This is the final stage. You start feeling mentally overloaded, emotionally reactive, unable to switch off, constantly behind, exhausted. You have also decision fatigue. You become trapped inside of your own business. And that's a really dangerous part. From the outside, everything still looks successful because clients is coming in, you're making money. But like the fulfillment is what actually is breaking you. Because fulfillment is not just getting them the results, it's also psychological, right? It's psychological from a standpoint that your clients expect to know certain things. Your clients expect to have certain answers. Your clients expect certain visibility. Your clients expecting certain things. And if you haven't break that expectation threshold with your actual clients, your clients will be the extra weight on your actual shoulders. And that's when also, because they're being so much because there's so much pressure being added on top of you, then your team sometimes feels confused as well. What has to be done, how it has to be done, can this be approved? It adds even more weight on top of you. Then you have also sales happening at the same time, which adds more pressure on you because you have emails, you're going back and forward. You have communication that adds more pressure. And then there's unfinished business inside of the business as well, which adds more pressure. And eventually you start to be really exhausted and your business takes a huge hit. Okay, so the biggest mistake founders make is this. They're trying to solve fulfillment problems with more effort. They think, okay, so maybe if I do the late nights, right, I'm just gonna solve it. They start to say things like that. I used to say, okay, listen, what we need to do, we just need to work this way through and we will fix this with the next clients that are coming in. We will make sure that we fix this because we will get better. So let's just work with it and let's just put in more hours. So trying to solve fulfillment problems with more effort, right? More hours, more pressure, more checking, more micromanagement. It's not usually what fixes the actual scale. It usually makes dependency even worse because now everything is definitely dependent on you because you are investing more hours than anybody else. You're taking more checkings, you are doing more micromanagement, and now everybody's kind of dependent on you because you have set a high standard that your team don't even know about. And your team can't even compete on that level yet. They're not ready because the training is not there, the processes are not there. And so now because you have this high standard and they expect to operate at this high standard, they want to make sure that everything is being done good. And so in order for them to make sure everything is being done good, they go to you because everything has to go through you. Okay? So the goal is not becoming harder worker. The goal is building a business that functions predictably without you. The biggest gift a business owner can give to himself is to remove himself from the actual business, right? So what actually fixes fulfillment? This is a big one. This is where systems become everything. Not sexy systems, not complicated systems, clear systems. Clarity is the biggest key in the business. So system number one is SOPs. If the team keeps asking questions repeatedly, you need to have documentation for it. You need to have processes in. You need to have checklists and decision frameworks because your team keeps consistently asking the same questions. Expectation systems, okay? That's another system. Most client problems come from misaligned expectations. This was the biggest one for us because we didn't have expectations around, we had expectations of what they wanted to see in terms of results. We had expectations of how does the communication has to happen, right? So we had that, but we didn't have part of like, okay, what would they like to see to make sure that their mind is on ease? Because we thought we're just gonna be checking in with them all the time as much as they need, and sometimes we would jump on a Zoom call. Zoom calls would sometimes take an hour, 2 hours, just going through bullshit. A bunch of BS we were going through on these calls, and that most could be actually handled on the onboarding. If there was clear expectations of what they wanted to receive, everything could be handled on an actual onboarding call. Because it wasn't handled on the onboarding call, every single week we would have clients, hour, 2 hours, going through on their project, asking a bunch of questions, telling us what they're not happy with, what they're happy with, what they want to see. And it's like kind of they running our own business, right? One thing that I will tell you about expectation systems is this. You need to deliver results. You can have your clients telling you what to do, how to do, and then basically controlling you. So you need to set expectations really clear, what is expected from them, what is expected from you, okay? Clients need onboarding clarity, communication rhythm, timelines, and success definitions. The less uncertainty, the less the actual pressure, okay? The next one is decision-making frameworks. This changed everything for me personally in this business. Your team should know what decisions they own, when to escalate, and how to actually think, not just how to execute actual tasks. You don't want to just create people that are good at executing tasks. You want to create independent decision makers, independent thinkers. That's the biggest gift to your business, when people can think on their own without going to you. The next one is capacity control. This is where mature businesses think differently. Not every client should be accepted immediately. Sometimes growth needs to slow temporarily to protect quality, reputation, delivery, and team health itself. Weak founders chase every sale. Strong operators usually protect the infrastructure. They protect their quality, they protect their time, they protect their health, they protect their business itself. So we have something what's called the intelligence form. Our intelligence form really tells us the risk of fulfilling a specific client. If the risk, let's say, is more than 70%, we kindly refuse to take that client. The reason we kindly refuse to take that client is because it takes too much risk, and it's not only risk, it also, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of expectations around that, and sometimes it's not worth the money, okay? So, not every client should be accepted inside of your program or inside of your business, and that will usually protect your quality, reputation, delivery, and team health. Because it's not only about revenue, it's thinking also about long term. Because if you take more clients, you can't fulfill them, now you're breaking your reputation. So the real business truth is this. A lot of founders think the goal is more revenue. It's usually not. The goal is a stable scale. Because unstable growth eventually creates burnout, client churn, reputation damage, emotional exhaustion, operational chaos. And honestly, I think a lot of founders secretly hate their businesses because the fulfillment becomes really painful, not because business is bad, but because structure is really weak inside of the business. They don't have the right systems to scale the business. Because eventually when we start the business, we all have a dream business that we want to own. We want to make money, we want a lot of things, but when these things come to us, it just exposes how unprepared we were for them. And sometimes we are really unprepared for a lot of things in the business. Yes, we maybe made few clients happen, but then the pressure increased through the roof. Things start happening differently than we expected. And now there's a huge, big mess inside the business. And that's because we haven't thought through everything. Mostly we were just focusing on the money. Because we were focusing on the money, we weren't focusing on like, okay, what the business really has to look like. What do clients have to really look like? What does the expectations have to look like? There's a lot of details that go into actual business, and by now I think you really understand that. So, one of the biggest mindset shifts ever, okay, is this. More clients do not automatically create better businesses. Sometimes they expose broken systems inside of your business, and your fulfillment keeps breaking. That means it's not failure, it's actual feedback of what is happening. So what currently you would need to do if your fulfillment keeps breaking? I would just pause everything. Rather than breaking the entire business, rather than stretching you to the point where you are exhausted, I would just pause everything and fix everything before I resume to things. So if you have sales calls and you have clients coming in, I would add them to actual waiting list, and I would tell them, hey, I can onboard you in the next 2 months because we are currently going through some changes, and I will add you to my waiting list. And because of that waiting list, that will make sure that you still have revenue coming in, but not only revenue, it will make sure that you have the right fulfillment, okay? Your systems are telling you what is happening. The business is not structurally ready for the next level yet if everything currently keeps breaking. And that's actually a good thing to realize really early before it's too late. Because once you fix systems, communication, expectations, delivery, and decision making, the business becomes much lighter, more predictable, more scalable, more peaceful. And honestly, that's what real scale should feel like. It should not be chaos. It should feel like, okay, we have control, we have rhythm, we have movement, we have momentum, and we also have minimized the chaos. If you got value from this video and you are serious about building a business that actually scales without collapsing, subscribe to my channel now. Most business content out there teaches you how to actually grow. This channel will teach you how to build something that actually lasts for a very long time. And if you want the exact scaling roadmap we use to help service businesses to build predictable client acquisition and add around 100K in MRR without breaking the actual fulfillment, go to my Instagram. Below in the description there's a link. DM me the word roadmap and I will send you over and show you exactly what systems, what bottlenecks, and how to actually fix them and how to install systems so you can actually then grow and reach the next level. Remember this, weak systems create chaos. Strong systems create actual freedom inside of the business. I see you in my next video.